It seems that finally Wizards has released a statement referencing the absolute shambolic mess that the OGL 1.1 has caused, and it seems like it's an overwhelming victory for the D&D community. And you see that all of this was just really a big misunderstanding. If you've been living under a rock, or maybe you just don't have a Twitter account, you would have seen over the last week a certain debacle with the OGL, something known as the OGL in Wizards of the Coast, and D&D. Essentially, we've seen a company known as Wizards of the Coast speedrun in a week over 20 years of goodwill earned from the Dungeons & Dragons community straight down the toilet. We've made a couple videos covering this whole entire situation. If you want to learn kind of the nuts and bolts about the broad situation as a whole, click the eye above. But in short, Wizards of the Coast was looking to amend an open gaming licensing agreement that has stood in place for over 20 years, and certain amendments to this agreement were, well, quite egregious, essentially giving them complete IP control over many works that have been made previously under this agreement, as well as receiving a certain percentage cut of royalty of many of these companies that would fall under this agreement. Oh yeah, and if you had a product that was made under this agreement in the past and you didn't want to be under the new agreement, well, sorry, good luck to you. Your product basically doesn't exist anymore. You can't sell it. Unsurprisingly, when this 1.1 OGL document was leaked earlier last week, Wizards went, well, pretty silent on the matter, as they got completely grilled by all of the internet. Well, finally the silence has been broken, and let me tell you, this statement from Wizards is absolutely fucking hilarious. It reads like one of those apologies you'd see from like a South Park episode.
We are deeply sorry.
Where they just low-key are just straight up dissing the community, gaslighting us, and basically acting like this was all just a big misunderstanding. And they didn't mean to overextend some of their greedy little hands into the pockets of many hard-earned small companies trying to just make a living in this D&D space. And let me tell you, if anything can be taken away from this statement, it's that very much this company has not learned their lessons. So let's have a read, shall we? When we initially conceived of revising the OGL, it was with three major goals in mind. First, we wanted the ability to prevent the use of D&D content from being included in hateful and discriminatory products. It's very interesting that they include this as the very first goal they want to list. This is obviously, to me, feels like some hardcore virtue signal cope here. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that they did this. This is good, because there's definitely some weird stuff going on in some certain D&D, I guess in D&D offshoot product games, but this right here, straight up virtue signal. Second, we want to attempt those D&D Web3 blockchain games and NFTs by making clear that OGL is limited to tabletop role-playing content like campaign modules and supplements. Fair enough. And third, we want to ensure the OGL is for the content creator, the home brewer, the aspiring designer, our player, and the community, not major corporations to use for their own commercial and promotional purpose. Now, this really comes to the whole entire heart and the crux of the issue. You see, Wizards saw several companies arising using the OGL, but you have to remember that these companies originally started off small, and it seemed like they were a little upset about how much of a piece of the pie that they were grabbing, so they thought that they'd get it back for themselves, seeing as they were like, yo, we kind of own the rights to this whole D&D using a D20 thing, don't we? Driving these goals were two simple principles. Our job is to be good stewards of the game. Okay, and how did that go for you? 2, the OGL exists for the benefits of the fans. Nothing about those principles wavered for a second, except when we think that the fact that they changed the OGL to get themselves more money. That was literally the end of the bottom line, was because they wanted to change it because they felt like people were profiting off of their IP. Basically, their greed. In addition to language allowing us to address discriminatory and hateful conduct and clarifying what types of products the OGL covers, our drafts include royalty language designed to apply to large corporations attempting to use OGL content. It was never our intent to impact the vast majority of the community. However, it's clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. It has become clear that it is no longer possible to fully achieve all 3 goals while staying true to our principles. I don't understand how it could be possible that they think that these 3 goals were anywhere achievable at all when you look at the wording and the verbiage used in that leaked 1.1 license. I understand wanting to protect against predatory NFTs and potential discriminatory behavior and content, but much of the wording in that OGL 1.1, especially in regards to having control of IP and image rights and product rights for any product that was made under the OGL, how could that be anything other than overreaching of boundaries? Also, I think it's funny that they want to use D&D like nerd verbiage, like rolling a 1. It's almost as if they're pandering to us, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme that you're going to see. It is important, though, that they clarified here that the new OGL is only going to cover content for tabletop RPGs. That hopefully essentially clears any other form of D&D content, whether it be live streaming, cosplay, even like virtual tabletop. All of these things will be should be completely okay and non-affected. The OGL should really only affect tabletop RPG, I guess like specific like volumes, campaign guides, the game mechanics themselves. We need to remember that if this, though, was left unchanged, they were completely fine with going through with that original 1.1 licensing agreement that they had put forward, which very much could have affected all of these things that they now seem to clarify that it wouldn't. So let's not think for 1 second that if they couldn't get control over all of those things, that they wouldn't. Apparently as well, Wizards is also doing away with the royalty structure they had proposed. The new OGL will not contain any royalty structure. It will also not include the license-back provisions that some people were afraid were a means for us to steal work. We weren't afraid of that. They very much were a means to steal work. It was written in the words. That thought never crossed our minds. Then why did you write it like that? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Under any new OGL, you will own the content you create. Yeah, I'd hope. Any language we put down will be crystal clear and unequivocal on that point. It really better be. The license-back language was intended to protect us and our partners from creators who incorrectly allege that we steal their work simply because of our coincidental similarities. Sure it was, man. As we continue to invest in the game that we love and make forward with partnerships in film, television, and digital games, that risk is simply too great to ignore. This is the key structure here. D&D is grown really, really big here. There's only so much money that I think they can make when it comes to the natural tabletop element of the game. They want to extend into film, television, and digital games because that's where the big money is. The new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk, but we will do it without a license back and without suggesting we have rights to the content you create. Your ideas and imagination are what makes this game special, and that belong to you. Once again, we got a little bit of pandering here, at least that's how I'm going to read it, especially when you read the first 1.1 suggested license, as well as when you look at the leak from the Wizards employee and what they seem to allege that higher-ups at Wizards and Hasbro seem to think of the community as a whole. This language is very much well, it just doesn't line up, and it's just pretty hypocritical if you look at overall how everything that they've pointed towards us from the higher up at Wizards view the Dungeons & Dragons community. We are a way for them to make money. They don't care about us at all. Don't forget that. I mean, not to mention the try to framing of the high ground that they have consistently trying to take here. I mean, just read the tweet in which this statement was released, put out by Wizards. Over the past week, we have witnessed an incredible outpour of passion and dedication from our community, working together to protect and cultivate the inclusive environment of Dungeons & Dragons. So essentially, yes, they are acknowledging that we, the community, are trying to protect Dungeons & Dragons from them themselves and their intentions for it. It's good to know that they can acknowledge that to the public. Just kidding, that's obviously not what they meant here. You couple this with this strange kind of postscript they have at the end, which really had me chuckling and really just how condescending these people really are. A couple of last thoughts. First, we won't be able to release the new OGL today because we need to make sure we get it right, but it's coming. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won, and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our plans. I mean, that's very much how it seems to be to me. These people will only be half right. Oh, please tell me more. They won, and so did we. Our plan was always to solicit the input of our community before any update to the OGL. The drafts you've seen were attempting to do just that. We realized we didn't do this at this time, and we're sorry for that. Our goal was to get exactly the type of feedback on which provisions worked and which did not, which we ultimately got from you. And changes this major could only be done, well, if we were willing to take that feedback, no matter how it was provided. So we are. Remember, there was a leak from a Wizards employee specifically saying that the only thing that they cared about was their bottom line, and the only thing they paid attention to at this point was the subscription slash unsubscriptions on D&D Beyond. That's what they were measuring the backlash for. They were measuring how much money they were losing, and that was going to affect just how seriously they were going to take this backlash. Now, this is very much how I expect corporations to act. They are greedy. They are profit driven. But the fact that they're trying to pander to us and act like they aren't, basically treating us like we're children, yeah, I'm not having this. I'm not having it one bit. The fact that they really think that they can just say like, oh yes, we always planned it for like this. We always wanted feedback. And that this wasn't just some absolute thing that if they could have potentially gotten away with using the OGL 1.1 and exactly the way it was written when it was leaked, if they could have gotten away with having that be the new OGL, you best damn believe that they would have done that. The fact that they even think that they can frame it like this, and they think that people are going to buy this, is mind-boggling to me. And frankly, you should be insulted, because they're insulting your intelligence right now. Thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't, what you need and what scares you. Without knowing that, we can't do our part to make the new OGL match our principles. What principles? Finally, we'd appreciate the chance to make this right. We love D&D's devoted players and the creators who take them on so many incredible adventures. We won't let you down. The problem is, guys, they already have let me down personally. I frankly am never going to give these people another single cent or dollar ever. Lo and behold, no one is surprised they're a bit of a predatory company that was fully willing to throw its community under the bus if they felt like they could get away with it. It's so wild to see just like full incompetence on display. They really did just chuck away like 20 years plus of like goodwill from the Dungeons and Dragons community and people who have made their livelihoods off of this amazing game that Wizards just so happens to own. The reason the game is so popular is because of the lush, vibrant fan base. It's because of homebrew content. It's kind of a D&D tradition, very much so. Not one person can really truly own D&D or a tabletop role-playing game. It doesn't work like that when everything in my game world is very much mine and my own creation. Now let's for 1 second try to take them further to word and think, okay, what if they're right and they always did want feedback and they just messed up and got it wrong? The question is, how could they have possibly gotten it so wrong? And if those 3 goals that I mentioned at the beginning of this video really were their true intentions, how can you possibly justify that as your goals and intentions when you read some of the language that was in that OGL 1.1 and the potential abuses that could be done? Frankly, this shit is absolutely hilarious, and I can't say I'm really surprised at all if we remember this is the same company that owns Magic the Gathering. But personally, I think it's really funny seeing the greed of a company completely backfire in their face when they piss off a fan base who actually genuinely cares. As always, guys, I hope to see you in the next one. Hopefully this is the last time we have to talk about the OGL, because frankly, I'm sick and tired of it. As always, if you enjoyed the video, learn something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace, love, adieu.